Pot TV, guys.
Yeah. Is Mrs. Goodwin here? Hello, Pot TV.
Second most famous weed couple in Canada.
Hi everyone, my name is Robert Neron. I come from Moonbeam, Ontario. I'm one of the first few tens of federal exemptee to be exemptee in Canada from 1998. In March 2010, I was busted for one joint by the Kepskissing police force. In between permits, I went and seen them for help for clarify my issues with Health Canada because they were too slow, actually 8 months behind. And I got popped for one joint, and they're keeping on the charges. So I still got to go to trial and everything for one joint. No, not from 1998. From 2010, I got busted for one joint. But I'm a federal exemptee since 1998. So why are they bothering me for? Today we're in court to support Matt Mernagh and again all the flaws from Health Canada. We're all here to support this cause.
Derek Francisco. I run Canadian Cannabis Consulting, Canadian Cannabis Legal Defense Resource, and I follow the laws and pretty close. I work closely with John Turmel and Terry Parker. Terry Parker. He's going for it. He wants his pound of pot back. Canada Post seized a pound of pot from Terry Parker. He had a constitutional exemption in 2001. Terry Parker still to this day doesn't have an exemption. So that's where the government's failed. They were given 1 year to create a constitutional medical marijuana exemption. Here we are almost 11, 12 years later, okay? Terry Parker still doesn't have an exemption. How does that make the medical marijuana access regulations constitutional? It doesn't. Okay, we have Mernagh here. Mernagh can't find a doctor. Paul Lewins uses the defense, not enough doctors sign. But really, the real defense is doctors are allowed to opt out. Because if you can't find a doctor, that violates your right to security, violates your right to liberty, and also violates your right to life. Section 7A Charter, it's very simple. My exemption expired. I called the OPP up. And said I wanted to turn myself in. They won't arrest me even if I wanted them to right now because I've already beat them. I was the first one in probably Canada and the world to get a half a pound of marijuana back from a judge. Okay, I was busted. I got my exemption 3 months later. I got a half a pound of marijuana back, 197 grams. I got all my grow equipment back, and I got all my charges dropped against myself. Cultivation, possession, and possession for the purpose of trafficking. So why do I need an exemption? I don't. I proved medical. Well, hopefully Paul Lewin, is able to argue against Kevin Wilson. I mean, Kevin Wilson's going to bring up the card, the same reason why they got their stay. Justice Taliano has given them 90 days to fix this problem. And, to me, they're already in contempt of Justice Taliano's decision because the Crown was able to get their stay and give them more time because they pulled the, it's a risk to safety and the community and our children if marijuana was legalized for everyone. But it's the opposite. If you tax and regulate marijuana and allow dispensaries to handle the sick patients, the doctor's job is finished when they diagnose the patient. Okay? Once the doctor diagnoses the patient could then go to a compassion club licensed through Health Canada. The Compassion Club could then give the patient up to 70 grams a week, so they receive their medicine right away, so there's no wait times. Okay, then the Compassion Clubs could send off the paperwork to Health Canada, and they could process the patient's license. Okay, the patient would never be without medicine, the patient would never have to wait for an exemption, and it would solve the problems. The government could collect the taxes and the revenue generated by medical cannabis. For sure. Robert Neron, my friend, they bust him with a joint, but they won't arrest me. I don't see the right to equality here.
Yeah, the laws are not the same for everyone.
Unless the Constitution's different in Kapuskasing, I don't know, but...
I don't think so. It's
where I'm from...
I think it's the same, because the City of Toronto stopped me from growing weed. And I've been one of the first 10 in Canada, at least.
Nice.
I probably might be even before him. Even though we argue about that all the time.
Right,
yep.
Right.
Oh, and I'm in since 1998. My doctor signed my exemption.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it was around.
Was that?
It wasn't Section 56 then.
Yeah, it was.
There's a lot that's being decided here today. This could have a big, huge effect on the way things are. Matt and Paul, of course, have run an amazing case. This time around, the government's going to come back and say, this is what they did wrong, this is what we don't like about it. But as we were just telling, whoa, here he comes, there he is.
Matt's here.
I'm going to go take a photo, I'll be back.
R.V. Mernagh.
Hey, Matt!
Hey, live on Pod TV. We're outside of Osgood Hall. We're going to start today at 10:30. The Crown will present all day. The trial coordinator called us on Friday to say the Crown and the judges have a lot of questions for the Crown, so to anticipate him going all day today, and that's a good sign. That means like they're going to be real thorough. So today is their appeal, so they're going to go first. They're going to try and convince the judge to overturn the Mernagh ruling. They want the whole thing overturned. They'd like to see me in jail, so we hope to get to the Supreme Court, but today is the next step in that.
Well, actually, we want to win here, but
we're going to win today.
I think we're going to Ottawa.
We're going to win today. Paul has worked the last 3 months on this case almost daily. There's excellent lawyers intervening to provide the court with opportunities to, you know, give them outs and ideas on what can be done. So we're excited to be here. Court process is a bit of a time.
A big show.
I got new shoes. I can see on.
So what do you
I
think?
heard you had trouble with your tie.
I did. I have it right here.
Oh, I'll do it up.
That's why you need like a guy.
Matt, what do you think the prosecutors are going to say?
Martin, I didn't even recognize who handed me that joint. Martin from Montreal.
Jesus, neither did I. Who's that for you?
Take it off, give it to me.
Oh, that's Aaron.
Take it off, give it to me.
Really?
Yes.
Do it on your
Take
own
it off.
That's good.
That's a good one.
That looks
Don't
good.
mess him about too
Give
much.
him the full Windsor.
No, we're good.
Nah, that looks good. Full Windsor is like a
Oh, nice. Well, we're okay for now.
Threw it in the cab on the way here. Our cab driver knows all about it, and the viewers that were watching on Pod TV earlier.
It was live in the cab?
Yeah. But pretty much you predicted what Mernagh was just saying earlier.
Well, we're excited. Yeah, we're here at Ontario Court of Appeals. We're ready for the big show, and like Mernagh has said over and over again, Government of Canada, we're here for a fight. Bring it on. We've already won once, and we're gonna win again. So be prepared.
We're here for 2 days. It's going to be a great day, guys. Like you're going to hear a lot from the Crown. He's going to say a lot of mean things about me today.
No.
How is the prosecution going to differ from the original case then? What do they have anything new to go in?
They're going to try today to argue that I'm in violation of the UN Treaty of 64 and 68. So I personally am in violation of that treaty. So that's one of the things they're going to argue today. They're also going to argue, one of the things you're going to see, and we kept undercover, is that the U.S. involvement. You will actually see today the Crown compare Canada's federal medical marijuana to 14 medical marijuana states, and he's going to say our program is the same as these 14 states. What the Crown didn't realize is when you put a footnote in a 54-page document, and I go, wait a second, 14 medical marijuana states, eh? Let's take a look at their statistics. They're going to try and use things like I haven't been trying hard enough to get a license because I was a Compassion Club member since 1997. They're going to say, look, he was buying marijuana since 1997 from a Compassion Club. He's okay. So there's going to be that. They're going to really rip into my health. They're going to pick on a lot of sick people, and that really upset me. We anticipated this play at trial. We anticipated them to try and we brought 22 people thinking, well, if 7 people make it through to the end, we've done really, really well, because they'd start cutting it down. They didn't cut anybody down. He was unable, at the trial process, to cut our witnesses down. Today at Court of Appeal, they're saying, well, 7 people admitted to, cocaine use. The argument is we would rather have you smoking a joint than snorting a line of cocaine. It's simple as that. That is harm reduction. Why are those people excluded from the program? Because they have an addiction issue? We even recognize in our Canadian law, the law says cocaine is harder. It's a harder drug. It's a Schedule 1. Marijuana is a Schedule 2. Even in law, we recognize the differences of harm between cocaine and marijuana. So why are these 7 people being forced into the black market, into a situation where potentially they could get cocaine again because they're out, hey, I got to get weed, and one of our witnesses admits to you know, having suicidal thoughts because they're in a lot of pain sometimes. And we had a lot of witnesses say that. And there's a lot of people in this society that, man, I got pain today, I just don't want to live. Well, you know what? When we get people, we need people to testify to that. The pain is so bad. How bad is your pain? Oh, I don't want to live. Well, you know, we want you to be, we had our witnesses be so honest that now the Crown's going back in and saying, look, these people don't need medical marijuana. And now today, they're going to come to the Court of Appeal and just, these people don't need medical marijuana. And that's one of his big arguments, is these people don't need medical marijuana, which is not going to fly. We have 22 amazing Canadians that have come forward. We have an expert witness from the farm that speaks about the dangers of the pharmaceutical industry and how your doctor is influenced by big pharma, which was one of my specialties for court. We didn't bring in just an expert. This expert is world-renowned in New Zealand, in Australia, and here in Canada. He's from York University. He's the foremost expert. He's relied upon by the UN for pharmaceutical marketing. And we went to court and said, look, for pharmaceutical marketing, how come Health Canada is not marketing medical marijuana like the pharmaceutical industry markets pills? So that was a good question. The judges said, well, you know, like, I think you could be correct to undo a lot of the damage from the pharmaceutical industry and to inform your doctor and Canadians. There should be an advertising campaign.
In Quebec, the Quebec government actually pays Pfizer and has a deal with them to study and actually start making the pharmaceutical drugs that are the synthetics. If you look up Intelgenex on the stock market, it's a Montreal company that bought out Canasat that used to be a Toronto-based pharmaceutical. They make the synthetic drug, and that's about to be approved and going to be going through the free drug food chain of the Quebec government. So it's a little bit why in Quebec it's even harder to get a medical marijuana prescription, because in Quebec they're just about to get the magic pill made from the Quebec company that's synthetically made of marijuana, but hey, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical industry in Montreal is huge. It's a very big industry. And so to compete against that, I mean, your doctor is unduly influenced by big pharma.
Can we talk about Judge Taliano's decision and the good parts of it, the not so good parts?
Well, one of the things you're going to hear today is that Judge Taliano accidentally put a decimal point in the wrong spot.
Oh, no. And so how does that affect things?
Well, the Crown would like to say it deeply affects things. Now, unfortunately, we had a law student do it, and he came up with the same number, so we suspect a law student did it for Judge Taliano. So we're going to argue that whether it's 0.01% or 0.1%, it doesn't matter. The number's still shit. You know, like, let's face it. It's not like he went dramatic. It's not like he moved the decimal places 2 spots, right?
But that's
or
the number
3.
Of what, Matt?
The number of people by percentage of doctors in the program. And he had a little chart, and he didn't move the decimal place 1 spot. And when 1 point, it's 0.083%, and then the math is like it should be 8.3 or something. Like, they redid the math. So
you're going to use that in the courtroom? Why not?
No,
it's medication. You should be allowed to take medication wherever and whenever.
I got it in my bag, but obviously we respect the court heavily. You know, I got my tie on, I got my full suit on, I got my shoes. Like, you know, we come into court really dressed as best we can, and they're going to be judging us and taking a good look at what we're up to. So
Matt, if you win this one, you win the appeal.
When we win.
Or they lose the appeal. When you win, what does that mean exactly? And then what does the government do? What's next after that?
Okay, well, when we win, the government will presumably get 90 days to enact a Health Canada medical marijuana program that is accessible to everybody. And that...
Good luck!
Did that in 2000?
That remains eliminating doctors.
2001?
Well, they didn't eliminate doctors as gatekeepers, and that's what we did. We went in,
Can we remove them?
100, that's what Mernagh says.
Yes.
Mernagh says is that you don't need your doctor's permission to use medical marijuana. And that's the biggest thing. We remove doctors as gatekeepers. That's what they want to keep in place. And so we hope ancient Chinese practitioners, chiropractors,
osteopaths, naturopaths, anyone who deals with chronic pain, massage therapists.
Yeah, we're up to any other suggestions. Biggest program from day one, and that's the one. It's the holy grail, knocking down the doctors as gatekeeper. We literally kicked in that door, the doctors as gatekeeper door. We were at the gates and we kicked it in, and
Let's kick in the
The
gate.
program should open up for everybody if you eliminate that one pin. The government could look the other way and say, look, we're not going to do anything. Or the courts could even just write in, we are striking down possession and production for personal use for medical reasons. And they could just write in for medical reasons. So if you had a medical reason, you would be able to grow and possess your own. My further suggestion, and we would make it in court, is that if you needed a designated grower, then you'd have to be in the program because of the trafficking element.
Yes.
We were unable, when we went to court, we asked for a constitutional remedy that included trafficking, and the judge immediately was like, your client just testified to growing it all for himself. So we backed right away. We're like, yeah, no trafficking here. So we can see that. People keep at, or like the Supreme Court of Canada, this is a very, I guess, liberal court. I mean, they legalize prostitution in this court. They legalize medical marijuana in this court. They legalize gay marriage in this court. Like, this is the court that gets her done.
Yeah.
We've never lost in court of appeal. Woo! We've never lost, and a lot of amazing things have happened here. So what could happen potentially is that this government of federal Stephen Harper is very petty, to say the worst, and we're counting on that kind of, and I would suspect that this petty government will appeal and want to see a showdown at the Supreme Court of Canada. But you know something? Insight won 9-0. Those are people doing hardcore drugs, and they will compare me to Insight today, where they're going to say, look, you can exempt Mr. Mernagh. One of the remedies we have is just exempt Mr. Mernagh from the law. We're okay with that, like Insight. Well, I'm not a charity organization. I'm not a place where people go do drugs. I didn't quite get it, but they're like, they're prepared to give me a court-ordered exemption through this whole thing and say, like, can you just go away if you get an exemption? What they don't, what the Crown didn't realize is that we tried this summer to get myself a constitutional exemption from the government, from the Minister of Health. They're like, look, you can't let me run around like this. And the Minister of Health wrote us back. We actually got a letter back this summer that said we refuse to grant exemptions. So the Crown doesn't know that. So when he brings that point up, we're going in and say, look, we already tried. We already tried that.
Bad day for the white coats.
Yeah.
This is the highest court in the province.
Yeah.
But now, how would this work if the government wanted to take this to the Supreme Court, as you mentioned? Explain that to us.
They have to write an appeal. So they have to write a document. You know, they have to write an appeal and say this court also erred. And then they have to explain why they erred and how they erred. So within 30 days, probably within a week, they would serve me an issue of we're going to appeal you, so I'd get served. And then within 30 days of that, they would write a boilerplate, hey, here's how the court failed. And then the Court of Appeal, or the Supreme Court of Canada then has to accept the appeal. That's what a lot of people need to realize. The Supreme Court of Canada just doesn't willy-nilly accept them. They have to decide whether or not to hear the appeal. There's so much. We've called every pot case in the country, like all the good ones from Barron, Hitzig to Parker. You know, we called all those 3 good ones, and it knocked them all in. We're going to wait, see what happens. And I think the Supreme Court, they've never heard just medical marijuana. They heard recreational marijuana, but they've never heard a medical marijuana case. And I think that if the Supreme Court were to hear it, that we would win easily. And chances of an appeal, like, they tend to agree with the lower court, especially at a 110-page ruling. Like, this ruling, just so people know, it was written so it would be appealed. Like, hey, I got to throw all this in and do a really good job because this is going to get appealed. This started 5 years ago, if people wanted to put it in perspective. And I hired a lawyer, Paul Lewin, and we were over there at Old City Hall. We were in bail court, and I was in my prison jumper, and the first thing he's like, I'm going to constitutionally challenge this law.
Explain what happened to you.
The police arrested me. They took everything I owned. I mean, like, it was shitty. My bus was not a happy bus. Pets died.
And it was for growing how many plants?
I had 32 plants on a balcony. So I had what's called the biggest balcony in Toronto.
Oh, wow.
That you were subletting for my husband, Chris Goodwin.
Yeah.
What this is actually stemming from is a personal interaction that you had with law enforcement then.
Well, I was charged and arrested, so yeah.
Okay.
A lot of this, of course, is all based around the fact that you could not get an exemption yourself, though you tried hard to get one.
Oh, sure. I mean, and we haven't really talked about this. I testified to traveling like a lot of people have traveled to get a license. I traveled out about 4 years ago to see a doctor, and instead of filling out my paperwork, he got a little nervous. He's like, I'm just going to write you a letter that I support your medical marijuana use. So we introduced that as evidence that, you know, like, look, the guy won't even sign their application, but he'll write me a letter saying he fully supports my use of medical marijuana. So those are problems that we run into. Definitely problems we run into.
How many witnesses? You brought in 22, didn't you?
22.
And they had very similar problems to
Oh,
you.
man, some of them saw 20 doctors. Some of them saw 30 doctors. So, you know, they saw a lot of people. Well, I'm going to head in, and thanks, everybody, for coming out. Just remember, we have to go through a security checkpoint.
Thanks for tuning in to Pot TV, live from Toronto. A bunch of marijuana activists. I hope it works out well for Matt. I can only be here briefly, but I'm here to show my support, so.
It's out, yeah. What? No, it's the lounges. You just want to hold on to it.
Just left the battery back.
Yeah, it's good to be here early morning. We're going to see some justice happening. Good stuff. And prohibition.ca.
Let's say hi.
Good luck. Thanks. Here it is. This is it. Oh. It's like one of the oldest buildings in Toronto, too. It's pretty historic.
I was going to ask how old the building was.
Oh, it's on there. I mean, it's out there. So
yeah, I'm going to look at it.
Well, the Crown did what I expected them to do. They would bring up that cursed Hitzig decision of Alan Young's and say that Letterman found that there were enough doctors in 2003, and Justice Doherty and Justice Simmons were two judges on the Hitzig panel, and they agreed there were enough doctors in 2003. So we really hope that they're going to contradict themselves and say that now that we got 10 times more doctors, there aren't enough in 2012. But I doubt it. The Hitzig decision, they said there weren't enough doctors. It was illusory. Notice the word, used the word illusory over and over. And the Letterman decision said no, there were enough doctors so that the exemption was not illusory. Get it? Well, the Crown made the argument that there aren't enough judges for the Mernagh decision to overrule the Hitzig decision. And the Hitzig decision said there were enough doctors in 2003. Supported by the Court of Appeal. So how can the same judges, now they say there's 10 times more doctors, how can they say there aren't enough? John the Engineer Turmel, the MedPod engineer, I wrote the cases of the Magnificent Seven with Terrence Parker at the Supreme Court of Canada going on right now.
Smartest man on the planet, running for Prime Minister of the planet.
I expect positive results? No, I don't. I've lost faith in the courts, to tell you the truth.
But what about his recent decision now? They seized his pot in 2006, and he said, hey, there's only 1 in 60 doctors. Anyway, the Crown Attorney argued that he's not exempted, so he shouldn't have his pot seized back. And we're saying, hey, he's the Terry Parker. If you didn't exempt him, you screwed up. So they're saying he should have convinced his doctor. We're saying, no, 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 you should have convinced his doctor. And they're saying he should have looked for other doctors. And we're saying there's only 1 in 60 doctors in Ontario. And the Court of Appeal said he offered no proof. Yet in the affidavit there it said, Health Canada lady said 400 doctors in Ontario out of 27,000. That's 1 in 63. So they said that it's up to him to convince his doctor. And if he can't find one, go look for the 1 in 63. And he's at the Supreme Court of Canada right now with the Magnificent Seven MedPod appellants.
Of course, we're also failing to recognize that we don't have a medical profession act in good faith when they are, for example, my situation, I've done studies with marijuana and epilepsy in '79, yet did we investigate marijuana for epilepsy? No, we did not. All we investigate with non-therapeutic cannabinoids as THC, while not recognizing marijuana's anticonvulsant property, CBD. Now, how can I have any faith in medical profession is conducting non-therapeutic research into cannabinoids, and at the same time I got a court and a government telling me I get an exemption? That's totally impossible, my situation. No good faith.
So the fight goes on. Anyway, let's see what happens. The Crown hit him with the worst shot, and we got a stacked deck. That's about as close as I can say, you know. Doherty and Simmons again.
What's going to happen to you?
And it ends up that two of the judges, Doherty and Simmons, were judges in the Hitzig decision 9 years ago. And 9 years ago, Hitzig said there are only 500 doctors. That's not enough. And those two judges in there, they ruled that 500 doctors was enough. You never know what'll happen, so we cross our fingers and hope that the judges contradict themselves.
Conflict of
So
interest
that's
with
the
the
report
judge.
at the end of the Mernagh case at the Ontario Court of Appeal today.
John, guys. I come today and we get this Mernagh ruling right, and he wants to get it right. The real question will be is how and what he's going to do.
In fact, didn't he say at one point, how many times do you want to come back?
Yeah. And that's what he told her. How many times do you want to come back? How many times do you want to do this?
I want to know the two judges that were already on the Hitzig case. In that conflict of interest for the case we have now? No. You don't think so?
Not at all.
Okay.
In fact, one of the interveners said, you know, the facts are a lot different. We have a lot more information now than we had in Hitzig concerning the problems.
Exactly, and that's one thing when we looked at the transcripts of Hitzig, is that Hitzig was done and Bernstein was a lawyer on Hitzig. So we had one of their lawyers and he said, look, the program only had existed for a year when we did this.
Right.
And now the program has existed for a decade when Mernagh did this. It's like they've already accepted by his very final comment. I already accept that there are problems.
Yes, that there are a significant number of people who can't get the treatment they're entitled to.
Yeah. So he already has accepted that. He already... the next phase, the question will be is what is he going to do to fix it? I'm a little tired today, you know.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. John Brady, witnesses. You know, met this guy like...
That'd be fine. I'm still in court for the one joint. Can you imagine that? They won't drop the charges. And I got to fight. I have no money. What am I doing? What am I supposed to do?
Here's another one. You
Where
can
am I
home?
supposed to go?
There you go.
Oh, okay. He ended very well. I thought, you know, Justice Doherty ended on a very good, positive note.
Plus everything's status quo for you until the decision gets rendered.
Which is, you know, excellent. I don't have to go home and chop down a bunch of plans. And I'm tired of doing this. Like, if Justice Doherty's tired of hearing it, like, we've been doing this for 5 years. We interviewed so many people. Like, Paul's like, I'm prepared to do it again. Yeah. You get more witnesses for it. And I'm like,
you know, Matt was in my office every day for 4 months.
I don't get it.
Leading up to the case, calling people. Yeah. So Matt's crazy amount of work.
So we've done it.
And I'm sure you didn't get full pay for it all either, so you're very good.
250 hours.
Yeah, no, it was about 25 grand that they shorted me. But
there you go. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Labor of love.
Yeah.
So I got lots of money waiting for me.
There you go.
We're in Ontario court. They're trying to say there's enough Ontario doctors, which we can argue for a long time. There kind of might be because there was a lot of flexibility here. But a lot of the testimony from today was basically saying like how Quebec is so restricted, how there's very little in regional areas. Yeah, exactly. Those are major cities.
So there wasn't equal across the country.
No, exactly.
Apply equally then. In Ontario, you could probably get 100 towns where there's not a single doctor.
Well, as soon as you get out of the main area, you get out of Toronto. So it's kind of interesting how they're setting it up. Saying, look, we understand the problems failed, and it's even worse in other provinces. So it's kind of
Cannabis champion of the world!
Any surprises today, man?
No, none at all, actually. I mean, I thought the court was exceedingly fair. They beat up my lawyer pretty good. He did a very good job of maintaining his composure and continuing on to the points that he had to make. I thought the justices were excellent.
Give it up, 420! 420!
I think the justices are going to come back with an excellent decision. They ended on a very positive note of saying there are significant problems here.
Yeah.
They don't want to come back in a decade with, hey, the last solution you came up with in Mernagh, it didn't work either. They want to come up with the be-all, end-all answer, I'm hoping. And that's what it looked like. He's like, well, how many times do you want to come back and do this? And Doherty, The thing is, in Hitzig, he upheld the idea of doctors as gatekeepers. He's like, no, no, and he really was, I think, testing us out of the gate and saying, are you extremists? Is the only answer from your group?
Are you for legalization?
Yeah, are you extremists? Are you going to knock down, do you just want me to knock down the law? And we came back and said, no, we've been prepared to compromise and adjust the system and make some minor changes. I mean, we've gone to our MPs to make changes and stuff. Like, we've always asked for some minor changes. Taliano just happened to be like, no, I'm doing this. You might see a judge, these guys just do a write-in where it says, with medical reason.
Wait.
Yeah. Water T, Mernagh shot, patient witnesses, surety, phone call.
Where's
If you put your heads closer together, I want to get
Where is Mr. Brady?
There you go. Good.
and the Water T shot, but that's part 3 murder. So it's within your.
Oh, yes, patient witnesses.
Oh, yeah, Kevin Benson's part of the team.
See that? There you go.
Oh,
yeah, there we go.
At one point he kept saying, don't you need a doctor? And there was a great site from Hitzig where they said, we don't need a doctor, just listen to the patients. I kept saying, well, what about that paragraph?
Yeah.
Said, nah, I don't really like that paragraph.
I wrote it myself.
The crowd yesterday was mistaking self-medication for self-prescription.
Right. You know, we know there's good doctors out there.
Yeah.
Some of them are charging a lot of dough, but there are good ones out there who know about all, are totally comfortable.
Well, there's probably also good ones who are genuinely oblivious.
Well, I mean, I've had a doctor literally, like, borderline yelling at me in the office going, I'm not educated and I don't know anything about this, and I'm going, I know that.
Here, Paul.
Hi, Paul. Be friendly, guys.
I thought it was a real good boxing match in there, and the justices gave the lawyers on all sides, I think, a real good challenge. But I think that's a necessary part of the whole process of testing the limits of what they're proposing be done in terms of a remedy or not be done. I think it's going to be an interesting decision. I don't think anyone can call it at this point, other than to say it looks clear that the Court of Appeal recognizes that the essential finding of the trial judge, that some significant percentage of people, or a significant number of people who are eligible for cannabis as medicine aren't getting it. I'm Paul McKeever, I'm a lawyer and I'm a leader of Freedom Party of Ontario.
What do you got here? This is that's the Mernagh case. That's the Mernagh appeal. Did you see the video? Matt put a video out a little while ago. It's how to do a constitutional challenge, and they actually panned the boardroom at Paul's office and showed like had to be 1,000 pounds of paper on the desk. He goes, "This is what a constitutional challenge looks like." So apparently, this is what a constitutional appeal looks like. Just reading the body language and stuff of the judges. I'd say this one's in the can. This one goes to us. Yeah, I don't know. Matt was tweeting yesterday about one of the first statements was if that's the best you got, then you're going to mark this one as a loss as well to the Crown. I think that's probably a pretty clear indication of what's going to happen.
I suspect that they're going to consider and talk about the idea of a remedy in terms of a registry for doctors willing to sign that is a publicly available registry. So you can go online or whatever, or if you have a doctor that refuses to sign, then he will be obligated to provide you a name of a nearby doctor from the registry that will consider your issues. I'll bet you they'll come down with something like that as part of the solution, because it seemed like Doherty was very warming to the idea of some sort of registry, a public way of patients have another avenue.
No, I think the registry is a good solution. You know what? They have a registry for methadone, for people that have opiate addictions. And the only way for them to gain access to this harm reduction program is through a registry. It's proven again and again that cannabis is far less harmful than most of the other substances they give you. So, you know, if harm reduction is the magic,
in fact,
then our registry is part of the key, part of the solution.
Have OHIP pay the doctor's fees. I don't complain about doctors charging a fee for the services of signing the forms. Have OHIP pay those fees for the patients, because in the long run, more patients using cannabis means less ODs, less complications, less side effects. It's the second leading cause of death of everything in the United States in the hospitals is bad reactions to the shit. They're supposed to be the medicine. And yet, there's not been a single provable death from cannabis. They say the fundamental basics of what constitutes a good medicine has already been established. The principle that it's safe has been proven, not just for a few decades, but now for millennia.
2,700 years.
It was proven in the medical journals. It's been alleged to be as far back as Shenmue 2700 BC. How many thousands of years do we have to have this plant to know that the trials work for humans? The biohistorians are saying we and this plant have evolved together. That makes it a fundamental right automatically, regardless of anybody else's rules, that I have a right to have a relationship with an indigenous plant that my species has evolved with. It's like a koala bear's right to eucalyptus or a ma's right to milkweed.
Yep. Amen. Good. I like that. That's a good rant. I like that.
Do you mind if I ask what you got in there? In there we got the appeal books, volumes 1 to 8, and we got the books of authorities, factums, and of course the submissions. So
that's all appeal. There's no case in here. This is just appeal.
And then of course a big bag of pot in case they legalized it immediately. So I had to have something to crack out. No, I'm joking.
So do you think that could be a possibility?
This way. I don't think it's a possibility, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think they will. They talked about suspending the Declaration of Invalidity. The Declaration of Invalidity is suspending the law, but suspending the suspension, so to speak. So, yeah, there's no law, but that's suspended for a year while they come up with something. Hey, Kevin.
Do you feel like introducing yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Paul Lewin. I'm counsel for Matt Mernagh. We just finished doing the appeal. Feels fantastic. I think we got some good comments from Justice Doherty at the very end, but you know, it's hard to know exactly what judges are thinking. I won't pretend to know those things, but it just feels nice that, you know, worked really hard and put in our best effort. So I feel good about that. So,
Thanks a lot, man.
so this way, Kevin.